going to run through some of the levels. I had a great week this week. Levels were respected pretty nicely. So we're just going to go down the usual 12, go over the high level concept of tops and bottoms, directions that we think we could be looking at, zones to watch for, and key levels. So without further ado, let's get right to it. Starting off with ES. Right now, what happened was we came right up to our line of 40.76, but take a look here. Last time we had these little drops, low, higher lows each time, lower, high, and then we just slid off. Now what we're looking for is we had the falling wedge, came down to support, resistance, support, little overshoot to trap people, and then we pulled right up. So what we're looking for going into this week is I'm going to show you right now. Let me zoom this in. And I'm going to annotate this so you guys can see clearly what we're looking at. Upside wise, we really have this massive level here, 41.17. Massive. If we can't get over that, there's going to be some serious issues. If so, we can see possibly that 4200, 4220 zone tested, 4200 to 4225 tested again. But this is where we had that inverse cup and handle and we gave up. Right now, this is going to be massive. We closed not with the prettiest candle. So we could possibly see a gap down going into Sunday night into futures. I would definitely expect a retest eventually of this 40.007 level. And once we break this, there's not much stopping us. I mean, sure, we can play around with the 39.60s, but they're going to be very light. Downside, we're definitely going to see 39.03. And once that does break, 38.34. 38.34 and 37.48 are two massive levels on the downside that I will be watching for, which I think we will be testing sooner than later. Once we get that confirmation, then we'll probably grind back up higher. But that's what I'm looking at for ES as of right now. On the bigger time, weekly, of course, we have all of our tight levels. See, we got the 40.73 level here. Let me just zoom in so you guys can see this. 40.73, 40.87, which was the bottom right around 8.2. Then we got the weekly POC 41.40, and then of course that low at 41.14, which could also be key resistance to the upside. Downside, you have then that 40.07 test, weekly POC. This zone gets a little choppy between that 39.97 and 39.57 zone. Below that, once that gives up, we will definitely most likely see 39.10s tested and lower. Okay, next one on the list we're going to go right down is going to be SPY. Since everyone wants SPY, right next to ES, easy to look at the comparison both. Here we are with SPY levels. Came beautiful, right up to the 40.07 level. Got the gap now. Definitely we're going to see that gap fill. Once that comes down to 40.01, we're either going to bounce or we're going to actually just drop right through this level. See, we had a nice W pattern and we ripped up. Mentioned that the other previous night, and that played out beautiful for today. Upside, you have 40.10, 4.13 zone, but I think we're going to have some issues here between right around this 4.07 zone. Downside, once we break 389, there's not much. It gets real choppy real quick. We don't have these big ranges that we're seeing. So it could get a little tight when we get down to 372. Next, we're going to go over is NQ. NQ, as once again, respect the levels great this week. Came right up to the 12.593 zone. If we can hold this, of course, we got that little overshoot right here at 12.661. And then right after that, we're going to see 12.818s. That's where next level key resistance is going to come right into. So it brings us all the way over here. Over that, you got the weekly POC at 12.923. Through that, little choppy, you can see 13.096, 13.174. Get that overshoot again. But I definitely think we're going to run into issues once we come up between the 12.18 and the 12.880 level. That's going to be key. Downside, once we break below though that 12.479 level, we will be coming straight down to 12.295. Below that, you got 12.231. And then the weekly POC, and we'll definitely be seeing 11.903 and lower. Next, VIX. VIX had the falling wedge, broke out, channel down, broke out. Now we had triple top almost up here, and now we also had either a big M pattern, you could say. So either we're going to hold this 22 level and pull right back up. If so, we then need to get above 24.69, and then we got to really break 275. 27.52, my apologies, before we can really start seeing ES really make that big collapse. Below though, as long as we hold 21.86 zone and 21.07, I think we'll still see some pressure. Next we're going to go over QQQ. QQQ, another great week for the levels. Came straight up to the 307. 307 is definitely a key level. That weekly POC from weeks ago is still providing that key resistance. If we can hold this 307 level, we got a nice shot of pushing right back up to 312 and then 314 weekly VPOC. Through that, definitely some choppiness resistance between 318 and 319 zone. But if we pull back, we fill this gap. 302.1 is going to be key level to hold. If not, we're going to be coming down to 300 weekly POC test and then 296. If all fails and we hold and break below 293, we'll definitely see this weekly POC at 289. We actually got that first initial bounce before this major rip. So definitely a key level to note. Below QQQ, we'll just go right through IWM. IWM, another great week. Weekly POC of 187 held up, provide that resistance. So currently need over that. We can see some issues definitely around the 189 zone where we had the bounce first, then a second bounce, so a previous support could become resistance. If not, we'll see that 191 test and then eventually that 193. Downside though, to get a little hairy, once we break below 179, we'll see 178 test and then the tops of 176, which was previous resistance. Below that, you got 174, and then you got 173. Key levels to note. Below that, we're going to go straight into the stocks now. Apple, Microsoft, Tesla, Amazon, Google, AMD, Nvidia. We're going to go over it all real quick for everyone. Apple, right here, holding that 156. If we can hold that, we can definitely possibly see that 158 VPOC tested. 160 is massive level, massive resistance at. Over that, we'll close the gap, and then we'll definitely possibly push up to 165 and then 166 zone. But I definitely think we're going to run into issues around that 163, if not 160. Downside, once we give it 154, we will see 151 and then that 150 zone. Very key zone. Below that, you got the 147 to 145 zone. Microsoft, if we can hold above 264, we can definitely see the gap filled. 267, 89 tested, which is a weekly POC. Through that, definitely get a little bit of a squeeze to 273, then that weekly POC at 276. If not, we'll close this gap. We'll start making our way back down, test the 258 weekly POC, and then 256 could provide a little bit of support. Not really confident enough, but I think 253 to down to 252 in this weekly VPOC at 250 zone we'll see. Let's go over the chips now, AMD and Nvidia. AMD came right up to that weekly POC 85.92. Need over that. If so, we can definitely see the 287s tested again. Through that, you got of course the top of 90.19. Don't have a mark, not that significant of level. You can note it if you want, but I think we'll see 91.37 and then that weekly POC tested at 93. Downside though, we'll close this gap, come straight down to 81.03, test this for support. If not, we'll see that weekly POC at 78.86 and then come down to the weekly VPOC at 77.06. Major level is going to be 74.47 to hold for the downside. Nvidia finally got a little bit of a relief after we were able to get over that massive 140 level. 140 was a massive level. We finally got that push right to that 144 that we needed. Now we have this gap though. So if we can push over this, we can definitely try to squeeze a little bit higher, close that gap, right around that 149.56 zone. If so, we'll then push to the 152 tops right here, 153, and see how we handle around this weekly POC. If not, and we come right back down, we'll be closing that gap at 140. Key resistance could definitely possibly provide support for a bounce, but if not, we'll be testing that weekly POC at 135. Below that, I got 126 and 122 for further downside levels. Let's go over Amazon, Amazon, Google, and Tesla and wrap it up for you guys. Amazon did fairly well, came right up to that weekly POC at 133.81. For that, we're going to see 136 possibly. Of course, you got this top here, so you can note that at 130. What is this? 136.37. Oh wait, 137.892. My apologies. Through that, you got then 139, and then that weekly POC up around that 142 zone. But if we come down, we will definitely see this 130 level tested again. Below that, you'll see 129, and then this 126 to 125 zone could get a little hairy. If all fails, we'll definitely start making our way down to the weekly POC of 122 to that 121.85, 121.59 zone. Below that, you got 118 and then 113. Google been trading around in this range for quite some time now. Can't seem to really make its way up and over that 111. But if so, and we can find our way over 111, we'll definitely possibly push to the 113 and that weekly POC at 114.17. Through that, of course, you got 116, which definitely could provide massive resistance, if not around the 113. If we just start to reverse right away, we pull back down, you got the gap to fill. Not much real support in between. I mean, you got the weekly POC 108 that you can test, but I think 107 and 105.81 are going to be key levels that we've had for a while. Below that, 105.01 and 104 are going to be the next levels to note for the downside. Tesla finally got a little bit of a nice squeeze, got a push, ripped right up to 299 today, almost 300. I definitely think 303.59 is going to be key level that we possibly peak and then start reversing, if not from this level. If we really push through 303, upside level, after that weekly POC that we previously rejected, we will see 313, which is definitely a massive level, and then 318. Downside though, if we give up that 303 level, we'll probably close the gap, go down to 289 zone. This could provide light support at 284, but I think 280 to around 269 are going to be the two more levels that I'll put more emphasis on this week going into. Of course, you got the double bottom here, zone right around that 266. If that fails, 262 and 255 come real quick, and then we'll have probably close this gap and see 248s. So that is really it going into this week. Overall, I definitely think when I'm looking at the big picture of things, we had a nice little bounce, but it's really going to come down to what ES does going forward. As we're in a very key pivotal level, I mean, we had a massive sell-off, pulled up almost 50%, a little bit less or more, give or take. But now, where we had all this chop resistance before, this 4073 zone and whatnot, it's going to be absolutely pivotal to see how we handle going into next week. Because if not, definitely can see lows put in pretty quick and we start reversing. But if so, we can squeeze. We could either chop around, consolidate for a little bit, and then push up. But it's going to really come down to Sunday night. I'll post my update and we'll go from there. Hope you guys all have a great weekend, and I'll see you guys Monday morning.